Hi, I am live. I'm so excited. This is Megan Marini on Thursday, the 22nd of June, and I'm going to be sharing with you some concepts about balancing the masculine and feminine so that you can stay in manifesting mode. And I really want to look at this specifically around business today. So, yay! I'm really happy to be here and I'm happy to have you, whether you're now or later catching up with this. So, thank you so much for hopping on, tuning in, and checking this out. I really appreciate my community and all of the support and everyone who is on the path of doing the work, whether that is helping to become the best version of yourself so that you can be better for your family, for your community, or if it is to try to reach your highest potential. I think both of those are really important things to do for ourselves and the world, especially in a VUCA changing world, right? So I'd love to hear from you all. And I'm on 3 different platforms right now. So I should be broadcasting live to my Facebook group, which is my private free group where people can go on and really share about their personal process with performance and reaching our potential. I'm on LinkedIn. This is my first LinkedIn Live. I'm super excited. I used to do a lot on LinkedIn. I was very active and I've sort of taken a back seat in the past couple of years. And I'm excited to kind of jump back in to LinkedIn. And yeah, what else should I say about LinkedIn? I love you all and you're a beast. There's a lot there and I'm happy to be back. So say hello if you're catching this on LI. And then I'm also on YouTube Live right now, which is really cool. So yeah, super excited. So drop a comment. Where are you coming in from? And as I move through some of these concepts, I'd love to hear from you how you've worked through these things, where you find yourself on sort of the spectrum, the scale of masculine and feminine when it comes to being both intentional and active in a business role. And we're going to break that down. It's a very exciting topic for me. I feel as though I've been, sort of studying the masculine and feminine within since I was about 19, 20 years old. And that really stemmed from my core trauma, my complex trauma as a child with the role of my mother and my father in the home. And it was always this really intense interplay in my life where I saw myself leaning heavily on my masculine to get through things, to feel as though no matter what, I will take care of myself. So I will overwork, I will overachieve, I will, I started working at 12 years old and never stopped, right? I'm like, wow. So then through my 20s and some of even my job in Colorado and Denver, where I was running the art gallery for Namaste Hospice, it was a lot of pushing and action and driving the project forward. Mind you, a lot of stress as well. And I ended up in the hospital a couple times, right? Where I realized that I wasn't being my true self. I didn't feel like I was really centered in my heart when I was showing up doing that work and being such a director, right? I felt as though I was sort of locked out of part of my potential, which I would call in that moment, in that time period of that project or role and career change, which was such an awesome career to run an art gallery. But I hope you guys can hear me all right. Let me plug in oh my God, I forgot to do that. Okay, so this is my first time doing a live like this, so bear with me. I will, I'm going to catch up. Don't you worry. So let's see if this is going to work. If you can't hear me, I'm going to need you to tell me. All right, let's see if something changed. Can you hear me? Let me double check. Sound. Let me see. I'm going to go here. Can you tell me if you can hear me right now, pretty please? Yeah, let's see. Yeah, your sound is perfect 1 minute ago. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yay. Oh, Anna, thank you so much for telling me that. Okay, so amazing. I love this already. I love the interaction. So by all means, like, tell me what's going on in your world as I go, right? Um, Freestyle. So yeah, when I was sort of in that overgiving, highly driven, I have to admit I was producing, right? I was jamming and I was very successful at what I did. The person that came in after me, because I did burn out, they said I produced three times the amount of work that that person did. And I was like, that's right. Of course I did. Right. Like it was like a point of confidence in me that I was like, exactly. That's why I sort of was so directive. So I think in all things and in all conversations like this, an important piece is that these we're discussing skills, we're discussing talents that we have. But what happens is a talent can go out of balance and a strength can turn into a weakness when we're under more stress. And this is in behavioral science and team building, right? That your strength quickly becomes something that you lean on so heavily. It's almost like you just have one tool in your toolkit when you're really stressed. And I often say to my clients, you don't paint a wall with a hammer. You want to make sure that you're using the right tool in the right moment. And that's really what this conversation is about. So I like to think of using spiritual law, universal law, the truths that we all abide by, that we can't get out of whether we want to or not, right? Gravity, karma, things like this, but apply them to business because that's the playground, right? For me, that's the playground, whether or not and I consider myself in the same playground as my clients, right? So when a client comes in, we're in the playground together, right? Is it you're growing your company, in the C-suite in an organization, or is it you're building your business, right? Like these are kind of where I'm going to be focused today. I sometimes will work with people too on just purely, mindset, mental health issues as well. I do that stuff too. But a lot of my clients, most of my clients is business stuff that we work on, leadership, public speaking, marketing, things like that. So yeah, yay, welcome. So I'm really excited to present these ideas to you. And I'm going to be totally honest because I love learning myself, right? That's why I'm such a geekazoid with all of this stuff. Is like I love the adventure and the challenge of learning and trying things. So probably 3 weeks ago, I had this opportunity and it was sort of this juncture. It was this inflection point where I was going to take all of the planning I'd been doing for 7 months and turn it into the active execution plan. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm there. I'm there. And then I waited 6 weeks and I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. Okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll do it. And the opportunity went away. So now I've had to sort of shift my plan and come up with a plan B to get to this execution plan that I'm so excited about. And I was sort of bummed. So I kind of it hit me like I was stunned, right? I was like, okay, so I consider myself, and if you were on, 5 minutes ago, you'll know that I've spent, I would say, like, a 5 year gap, very masculine, and then a 5 year gap, or not gap, but time period in a very feminine space. Like when I taught yoga full time, I was very in my feminine, right? When I ran the art gallery, I was very much grounded in my masculine. And I think that we really want to dance between them and understand how to bring it into balance so that we can utilize whichever tool is appropriate for the moment. Or I like to say, to dance to the music. You're not dancing tango when they're playing merengue. You're like, right? You want to be down with what's going on, right? So in this inflection point, I said, holy guacamole, I just got way too feminine. So I'd spent 7 months planning. Hello, that's super feminine in a very important piece of business. We're going to talk about a little bit more. Very important. But if you don't also then take the gasoline that's in the tank and get your tail moving, the boat, it goes away. Like literally, that ship passed and that opportunity I had went away. And the only thing I can say about it is that I fell too far back into my feminine of just feeling and sensing and sort of intention setting and feeling into what I needed to do without doing it.
I'm like, dang it. So now I'm like, okay, great. I wanted to hop on to share this because I see it in ways with my clients as well, building their businesses, which I want to talk to you about a little bit here of some examples. Now, I'm not going to go too deep into the masculine and feminine because I think that, you could have a PhD in masculine, feminine, and, still have more to talk about because it's a fascinating subject, but I want to keep it kind of simple, right? So I like to think about it as sort of the yin yang, right? So the white is the masculine, and that is action. The black in the yin yang symbol is the feminine, right? So it is the receptive. It's the receptive component of life. We all have both of these aspects inherent within us. We're able to both think and contemplate, dream and feel, right? Receive information, and then we're able to act, right? This is the masculine is act. Sometimes I think of the masculine as speaking, even as a masculine act. But we can always infuse, just like the yin yang symbol, there is inherent femininity in speaking as well, where you can lean more deeply into your feminine to be a more gentle presenter, right? Or maybe your voice is really fragile and you don't have a lot of sound and projection. So then you would want to lean on your masculine as a public speaker and play up your ability to project to a room, right? You might use your body more to show more, to take up a little more space, right? So I don't want this to get into too much of a gender. It's not a gender thing for this conversation at all. So if you want to talk more online, if this has triggered you or anything like that, but I would invite you to sort of think about it more as almost like the Latin language, where every term has a masculine or a feminine expression, right? And basically everything in life has to be able to do both. We have to be able to receive, whether that's receiving food, and then we have to also be able to give and to act, pick your child up, communicate what you need, things like that, right? So I'm sorry if I'm being a little bit of a generalist there with that stuff, but I don't want to go too far into that because I don't even feel like speaking about it. I'm an expert at speaking about masculine and feminine. It's more that I'm sort of contributing something a little different here that you don't hear about very often. How do you manifest what you're working toward by participating in a way that's balanced, right? So I see a lot of people starting businesses as healers, right? And doing a lot of training and learning, and then sort of sitting back and not building a program, not offering their services to someone. That's a very feminine way to be. So you're sort of like stuck in the planning and the receiving of more information, but you're not acting on the business and actually affecting change in the world. So you're sort of like you're hanging back too much, and the energy, if you were to use traditional Chinese medicine, like we're using the yin yang symbol here, you'd be sort of in what the heck is the word, inertia, inaction. So you're actually out of balance in that example. Another example is taking action too fast. You're leaning too heavily on the masculine. You're not spending enough time looking at the market, the opportunity, understanding what your audience needs, what your clientele needs, what they might need next. You're just jumping into action. Again, a skill set, right? That's a great skill set. But you don't take action for the sake of action because you never succeed if you do that. If that's your MO and it's a reactionary thing, right? If your reaction is to just keep taking, to go back into the yin, right? The feminine, just taking more certifications, just taking more certifications. I just keep learning. I just keep learning. So you're out of balance, right? If you just constantly act and jump into new things and build new things without really being like, where are we going? Why are we going there? You're going to burn out, right? This one, you're never going to launch. You're never going to make $1, right? So you can see how in these two examples, you do have a skill set and you're able to do something great, but you're not doing it with the other side of the equation, right? So you don't want to always have to learn things that are outside of your skill set. Like if you're not good at marketing and sales, but you want to start a business, then you need to just look holistically at the business and say, well, I need someone else who can do that. I need to hire someone, or I need to bring someone on that can do that if you can afford it. If you can't afford it and you're a really small business, then you need to learn, you need to improve your skills there. But you can't not do it, right? So the thing that where it's happening is it's happening inside of you, right? So we want to look at sort of where we opt to move toward, and if that option that we have is reactionary. So you can ask yourself, do I just jump? Do I move just automatically into that sort of lane on the highway, no matter what? No matter, have you noticed that? Like different lanes move at different paces. And if you're always in the fast lane, sometimes that's not a good idea, right? So you're like, oh, let me get in another lane, right? So you want to think about building out so you have all four lanes of saying, okay, what am I doing right now? Am I supposed to be doing something a little bit different, a little bit more active, or a little more receptive and sort of sensing what I'm supposed to be doing? So let me know if this is all making sense to you. And yeah, also my course, Biohacking Performance, shows you how to manage the thing that you do that kind of slows you down or causes you to become it's like a self-sabotage mechanism, the mechanism that you do that holds you back. And this is a really good way to track change. So yeah, so I wanted to explain just a little bit about how the balance works. So in my work, it's really important that we're coming from a place of non-judgment. So when we are self-evaluating and we're looking back at ourselves, this can easily turn into self-criticism. And honestly, we do not need any more self-criticism. Like the world that we live in today is set up to have us constantly be criticizing ourselves, right? And not everyone has fallen into that trap. I admit there are some people that don't do that at all. But a lot of people have some mechanism of self-criticism that it causes us to cave in and not be our whole self. So we're supposed to be blossoming all the time, right? Becoming better, loving ourselves more. And I want you to think about however you move in this masculine and feminine space, to really be thinking about it from a place of self-acceptance, and that it's okay for you to have the skills that you have, right? Because from that place of self-acceptance, we're able to fall into a place of like, I love myself, I'm okay. And then from there, move into what we choose to do because we want to, because we feel okay. Not because I have to, I'm not good enough, I'm doing this wrong, I've wasted my life. Like that energy is a really important piece to be careful of and to evaluate too. Like what energy are you coming with? If it is self-criticism, you're not going to create a lasting transformation that sticks. Then you go back because the undercurrent is still kind of gnarly. So I like to think of this as like when we are in healthy masculine, we have to take action, that we can do so with that underpinning of the energy of femininity, so that we can go after the thing that we want, but we're not clinging to it. Okay. And this is manifesting, right? When you are a little too attached to an outcome, a little too excited for an outcome, we are clinging. And we know that when we cling to something, we actually push it away. The opposite happens. It's the law of magnetism. You're too excited. So I want you to add a little of a feminine practice there, right? Where you might say something like, well, that thing that I really want, it's okay if it comes and it's okay if it doesn't come. Or I can wait a little longer for that. I know it's coming. It's either going to be that or something better. So you're releasing that tight grip to it inside of yourself. And it's almost up leveling to a new normal, where the new normal says like, yeah, that's going to happen. No big deal. right? Rather than we sort of put the thing we're trying to manifest on this pedestal of excitement and it's a big deal. And oh my goodness, is it going to happen? There's all this tension and stress and clinging. I have to work really hard to get this. And again, it's pushed away from us when we do that because we want it too much. There's stress and tension between it. So to release that, you tell yourself a different story, right? You tell yourself some of those things I just said. Hey, if it comes, it comes. When it comes, I'll be ready. You see what you're doing? You're sort of wooing it a little more, because just like a dance with a new lover, or even a new friend, you're not calling them every day. What are you doing tonight? Do you want to hang out? Every single day, all day long, right? You're sort of like, okay, I'll see you next Saturday night. Hey, what are you doing? This thing would be really great for us to attend together. So you're sort of like, it's a dance. It's a healthy, natural dance. You're not suffocating the person, right? So it's very similar in manifesting that thing to come to you. So you want to slow down the excitement within, and that's adding a little bit of feminine practice of playing around with unraveling it. And then on the masculine side, what we want to think about when we're manifesting is taking the right actions. Okay. But I like to start with the feminine practice first. What is the intention? What is the energy behind what we want to do? Why do we want to do it? Not just, I want this thing, I'm going to go get it. That's very masculine, and you burn out in that energy, right? Rather, you can start with, what's the right thing for me to do? What's the best thing for everyone involved? Right? You ask yourself these really like open-ended, juicy questions. And now you're attuning to that more receptive, open energy. And then from there, you apply the action steps in the planning. All right, I'm going to go get it. I'm going to make myself do it. And if you notice again that you fall back into like, oh, I just want to think about it, then you really need to be like, I am going to, what I call, force a breakthrough, get myself in action. And oftentimes that's how I talk about creating behavioral change, is like, you have to force it to happen sometimes, because if you just feel so comfortable in the feminine energy, you'll never get the business going to where you need it to go. If you're too masculine and you just love to take action for the sake of action, you're going to make so many mistakes for the most part. And it's not always. Like, some people that are high action takers also are really good decision makers. And that's sort of the stacking of it, right? So you start with feminine, really feeling into what is right for you to manifest, and then moving toward like what are those actions that have to be taken from that place, and in between there is the decisions. Is that the right action? And we know that people that are successful are really good decision makers, and they're fast decision makers, right? So that's then like, move yourself out of the feminine, make the decision, and then get your tail in action, right? So some of the ways I see this with clients is like, too much information gathering, too much data, and then they're paralyzed and they don't act, right? Other clients, not enough data, not enough thinking, jump into action, start a new business, and everyone's like, whoa, right? So that's sort of wasteful, right? And there's a layer where this stuff is reactionary, and it's from our trauma story too. So I just want to also honor that a lot of this isn't just some topical way we can look at our behavior from a different angle and then change it. Like, I think that would be overly optimistic and unrealistic. I honestly think of behavioral change as the most challenging thing that we can attempt to do as humans. But I love it because it is so challenging, and I love the results I get. I have 95% client success rate with my clients. It's like, I love this stuff because it is so challenging. So, I see it sometimes showing up as, I really want to serve everybody, but I don't take the action of selling. I'm not making any money at what I'm doing, right? Where the person just has this idea that it's bad to sell and to make money. But it's like, well, if you're running a business, you've got to unravel that thinking and move toward the masculine, which is like, here's my offer. I'd love to have it. I'm just inviting people in. It doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be salesy. It's just like, I'm having a party Friday night. Do you want to come? Like, it's just, you're just inviting them, right? So we want to like simplify our relationship to our behaviors. So yeah, I wanted to offer you just one more thing, and then I'll check if there's any comments that I can answer. So we're going to first say, like, if you lean heavily on the masculine, what that might look like, if you lean heavily on the feminine, and then a couple things that you can do to balance out how you approach work, right? So ask yourself, do you do this always, sometimes, or never? So if you're heavy on the masculine, do you leap into action when something goes wrong? That's a very masculine trait, right? Do you enjoy execution? Do you enjoy finishing projects? Do you love the act of just being in work itself? Okay. Ask yourself always, sometimes, or never. That's a very masculine trait within your work. Men and women, any gender, any trans, we all have these things of masculine and feminine, being or acting, right? So are you more comfortable being in the game of business? Do you feel really comfy, like feeling like I'm out there, I'm doing all of the things. So you're really involved in the game. So I think that's a very masculine. Where on the feminine side, you're a little more like, oh, I'm not really sure. Like, I like people to come to me, right? And this can be in any arena, right? We can be talking about social media, public speaking, looking for investors, whatever it is. Are you both feet in the game, right? So ask yourself, are you always, sometimes, never in that kind of feeling of like, yeah. So on the feminine side, right, do you wait for things to happen, right? If that's an always, then yeah, you're definitely leaning heavily on the feminine. It's a skill. We want you to be balanced. So you also don't just wait, but you act, right? So are you more comfortable planning, right? Thinking about what you're going to be doing the research, looking at all opportunities before moving? I think it's a good skill to have, but you don't want to get stuck there, right? So ask yourself, always, sometimes, or never, do you like to feel into things and really sit with the feeling? That's a very feminine skill. It's a good skill to have. You want to start there, but you want to move from it, right? So if you tend to fall more masculine as a skill, one of the things that you could do is drop into more self-care. Okay. Spend a little more time each week caring for your physical being, your physical vessel, whether that's taking a bath, more journaling, doing a facial, time alone, solitude. It's all a practice of really introspection, sensing, feeling, processing, right? Different than action, cleaning the house, taking the kids to soccer, speaking at the local Rotary. These are actions at night, right? Where, like, when you're off, you also want to be practicing some feminine stuff. So we can think of it as the practice of being, allowing ourselves to just be. Now, I work with a lot of high performing women where this is a place that's hard to get to, where if you're not almost in a state of utilitarian, utilizing every moment of the day to give to someone or to produce or to give something at every minute, there's almost like a fear to just let things kind of be for a little while. So I would say then, allow yourself, before you walk into the house, to take off your shoes in the backyard and sit for 10 minutes and just let yourself be in stillness, as a practice of creating that inner landscape and that relationship with oneself. Very feminine practice. Okay. So, and if we move in a very outward fashion in life all the time, it's really important to balance that inner world and start to develop that relationship. So I'd love to hear how you think about that. That alone can be triggering. Just to hear that that can be upsetting. And I want to honor that, and also let you know, please reach out to me if you want to discuss these topics further. And also, of course, if you need support, this is the one-on-one work I do too, right? I do trauma work, I do hypnosis to help really unravel these reactionary ways of being. So really slowing down is a very feminine act. So I'm going to probably ruffle some feathers here. How about in the supermarket, if you still go food shopping, to allow yourself to enjoy the act of picking your fruit out, to allow yourself to look around and maybe say hello to the older woman, or make a joke, or give her a compliment, or talk to the person behind the bread, the bread making section, right? To allow yourself to actually slow down. It's more feminine. You're going to get there. You'll probably be healthier when you get there, right? So now those are a couple of things you can do if you sway masculine. On the feminine side, if you hold yourself into this really receptive place and you're quite skilled at that, I want you to think about adding a reward for taking an action. And this is in my biohacking performance, which is a really important part of that feedback loop of changing behavior. So you can use that on the masculine side as well. It's like, okay, I sat outside for 10 minutes and I get a reward, right? So I'm going to have that glass of wine, or I'm going to go to the movie I want to see, or whatever, right? So, reward yourself for taking action, right? So you're really starting to focus on what actions are really important for me to take to manifest this thing I've been thinking of or dreaming up, right? Another question for you would be, where do you need structure? Of course, what structures do you need is important. Sometimes it's tech, it's software, sometimes it's an assistant or a house cleaner. Sometimes it's a process in thinking, right? It's creating a spreadsheet sometimes. Sometimes it's having accountability, someone to kind of help you look at these things, right? What structure is needed? Because often when we fall into the strength of the feminine, we're sort of structureless. We're like, well, I don't even know what I would do, right? Okay, you need to know what you need to do. You need to spend time on building a structure that makes sense, that's almost a bridge between the idea that you want to manifest and what it would look like in the world. What is a natural ladder to get you there, right? If you're launching a business and you have no marketing, you need to figure out maybe 2 things you can do in marketing to get you there. Okay. A lot of times people have 15 touch points of their marketing plan and it fails because they have too many things they're trying to do, right? They've listened to every single voice that's out there in marketing. Good luck, right? You want to instead just do a couple things that make a lot of sense for you and your energy to get you to that point that you want to get to. Again, I'll talk to you more if you're like, well, what ones do I do? Or, I love this stuff. So just asking yourself, what structure do I need to get there? Okay. And if you don't know the answer inside, Google is fantastic, of course. And also get support, get outside support if you can't find your way. There's always somebody that knows, right? There's always resources. So if you're always in this, I'm preparing kind of energy, right? Then you're leaning too heavily on that mindset of, I want to learn, I want to know everything, I want to be the best. You can't be the best unless you're actually doing the work. And honestly, until you're doing the work, the learning doesn't even start. I'm going to say that. I know that's a little bit, maybe that's not the nicest thing I've said today, but it's really true. So you legit aren't really learning until it's embodied experience, right? The theoretical is extremely important, and I would never diminish that, and I don't mean to at all. I am well studied. I'm kind of a ridiculous I'm like, I love learning, right? I love it. And I think that that's really cool when you're learning. But the thing you want to really challenge yourself is on moving toward experience, right? So that's a mindset of telling yourself that you're ready, that you have enough to give, that there's people that need you, that know less than you, and you need to get going so you can serve them. You need to tell yourself that story. So I hope that helps. That's a couple of tips that I wanted to give you on how to sort of practice the other skill. If you notice in business that you're almost like too much out there in the world, or too launchy, too action, or if you're too passive and you're sort of like, oh, I love planning. So we really want to bring those together, add some nice decision making, and then execute, right? So feminine, decision, execute, and really staying in balance. So I'll add one more thing is that you can observe yourself in the moment. Everything's moment to moment with the work that I teach. Everything is living in the now and living a truly conscious life so that you are not reactionary from the past, right? So you get to say, wow, I'm really driven right now and it's so good. But can I add a little more fluidity, a little more receptivity, a little more flow, right? Can I kind of chill while I'm doing all the things, right? And then on the other side, if it's like, oh, I just am so happy in my backyard all summer. I don't want to do anything. Like, right? So where can I sort of power up and take this out into the world? Should I volunteer one day a week? Is there some activity that would make me feel more alive and engaged and part of the world, right? If you're leaning too receptive. So those are just some examples and some skills for you. I'd love to hear from you if you have any questions. We can hear you. Thank you, Bill. Hi, Trace. Hi, Kim. It was so good to hear your laugh, Kim, the other night. Hi, Farhana. Yay. Okay, so I don't see any questions yet, but I will be tuning back in to answer them later this afternoon. And let me just check if there's anything on LinkedIn. Checking the phone, checking all medias. 2 ladies, 2 sessions a week. Okay. What's your full address? All right, I'm going to respond to everyone after. Let's see. Very exciting. My podcast just launched with the tremendous and amazing Jackie Zuck. I would love to hear your impression of that podcast. I feel like I was super high energy in that podcast and really like masculine. So, which I do practice masculine and feminine in my sessions too. I love to give advice when it's needed and asked for. And I love to be a listener. And that in the what I consider the therapeutic space, right? What I'm holding space is a balance of masculine and feminine. It's a lot of feminine listening, a lot of just holding space, mostly. And then here's some tools that you can use. And I love that dance. I live for it. So yeah, please let me know what you thought about this. And if I can help in any other way, I will continue to do these lives on Thursdays, either at 10 or 11. We'll see. It's probably going to be 10. Yep. And if you're interested in working with me, I work one-on-one with clients. I do some in-person work. I, of course, do Zoom. And then I have my group things launching. And I now have my course, Biohacking Performance, which is a fantastic way to gamify behavioral change so that it should be fun to grow and to change. And I have a system that has worked with my clients over the years. And I'm so excited to have that for you. So if you're interested, please reach out for that link, or I can pop it below if you need it. And thank you so much for tuning in. I'm really excited. And I want to hear from you all of how your process is going and what you're working through being a leader and a leader of yourself, and how you create a healthy inner landscape that's fun to inhabit, right? We're only here once. Right? Okay, much love, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day.